Hey, Andreas, you see a lot of startups and scale-ups, and I take it that you see a lot of companies that are currently working with artificial intelligence. How has that evolution been for you? Like, what do you see in the market nowadays that companies are implementing AI?
That's a good question. How do I see that evolution? So I think, of course, lots of companies are applying AI in their products. So I'm deliberately choosing the word applying. They're not creating any AI themselves. They're using existing models, and they just call the APIs of the providers. And I think if you look back to, like, let's say 5 years ago, there was already companies doing data science. So what you see now is that lots of people call the data science approach to things AI. So that's already interesting. I see that with CEOs that don't understand the difference between a machine learning model, neural network, and LLM. They don't see the difference and they just think it's AI. And then we audit them, for example, and they believe they have some kind of very smart AI algorithm that in the end is just a decision tree or a classifier, something that has been known for years already. So it's interesting to see that people just put the stamp AI on everything that's a bit of a black box for them. But of course, in the most recent years, we see a lot of application of newer things like LLMs, generative AI stuff, which is interesting.
And is it then maybe like not necessarily as a core part of the application that they are building or the offering that they have? Like in the past, with a lot of the machine learning algorithms, it was usually like the entire platform was built as that as a core concept.
I mean, for example, recommendation engine is a typical example. I mean, we have been building those since 2006, 5, something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember that's when I did the first one. So no, I think those things have been around for a very long time, and they've been basically enhancing the functionality of a product. And I guess with the generative AI we're using today, with calls to OpenAI, what we're doing is we're just being smart on certain parts of the code base. So
I think the entry barrier, like the barrier of entry, is also a lot lower, and it becomes so easy to integrate with existing applications.
Things like recommendation engines also got commoditized, let's say 5-6 years ago. So I guess it's just the next step in that. And obviously the power and the thinking capacity of the LLMs is massive. But I think we'll also see some kind of backfire on it because it's going to get very expensive also for companies to basically keep calling those external providers.
Yeah, a lot of those providers are working underpriced for what they are offering.
I read recently that, for example, OpenAI, they want to, I think, triple their price by 2028. So that's something that you have to keep in mind.
It makes sense as a provider because you see all
investor presentation. I mean, they're not sharing that to the public, but when you read their investor pitch, that's what they put in there. And of course, there's inflation, but that's way more than the inflation. So that's it basically, and that's something that everyone needs to be very careful of. If you base your application on top of something like OpenAI or Claude or whatever, of course, you're calling them, you have to pay for them, and so it's a huge dependency on them. And if you don't factor that in, we have cases with customers in, for example, email sending, where they had to switch providers for legal reasons. But here, for example, it could be for financial reasons because the model you're using is getting twice as expensive, or maybe, and it's for sure going to happen, some of the companies going bankrupt or just closing up shop.
Or a new company comes into the market with a better model specifically for your
as a company, you need to be very diligent about which company you want to work with, but also like making sure that there is an abstraction layer so that you can easily switch them out, which is a mistake. And not only the abstraction layer on a technical level, but also on a product level, that you don't tie yourself too much into a certain model.
Don't make your core offering like dependent on the provider you're working with. That makes a lot of sense.